Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Oakes with the SmartSocial.com podcast. Thank you for listening to us, whether it's on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or anywhere else that you're listening or watching. We're doing this live on video and then also on audio. Today, I have a former law enforcement officer here today it's a friend of mine and a colleague and here to protect kids. And today's topic is really going to be, what do kids say about digital safety when the parents aren't around? And we have today as a guest, Scott Frank. He's with the Digital Empowerment Project. Scott's going to talk to us about all the stuff that he learns when he goes around talking to students. Scott, welcome to the podcast today.
Well, Josh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you, and I sure appreciate the awesome work that you're doing.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Okay, give us your background real quick.
Yeah, I retired April 2017 after 36 years in law enforcement. From 2006 until 2017, I was an affiliate member of Ohio's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. I had a somewhat specific role in that I was a chatter. In the state of Ohio, a law enforcement officer can pose online as a teen that's 15 and younger. So I assumed any number of teen profiles. I think I had 25. So when I logged on to the social media platforms that our kids are using, I was posing as a child. So that really gave me a unique perspective as to what the risk and to what some of the opportunities and the positive aspects of the internet is.
Wow. Okay. So many questions for you. Now, you do school assemblies.
I do, yes.
Your school assemblies have been successful, and then you're now brought back into the classroom. Schools are saying, well, can you do a more one-on-one approach or 30-to-1 or something like that? You ask students questions in the classroom. I want you to tell us what you ask the students and then give us what their answers are and kind of some of the percentages.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm feeling very fortunate because after a school-wide assembly, oftentimes the schools are bringing me back. And I'm finding that I'm speaking to the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade range, and we're doing it in a classroom environment. It's a little less PowerPoint driven. The kids have already seen me speak in a school assembly. We have that rapport, we have that trust, and the schools have been very gracious about allowing me to ask the kids what I think are some super important questions. One of which I asked the students if they know more about the digital world than their parents. And typically the response is a very quick, positive, kind of hyper answer. And I'm right around 85% of those kids that are telling me that they think they know more about the digital world. And I think that's spot on because I think our kids are very tech savvy. But one of the takeaways is when the kids are excited to tell me that, I think that's indicative of they like the fact that they are ahead in this understanding of the digital world, and that, to be quite honest with some of their parents, are lagging behind.
They're ahead, and it hits on the next question that you ask students, which is, when is the last time, students, you've spoken with your parents about digital safety? How do they answer that? Because
that's a heartbreaking question. That's a heartbreaking question. 56% of the kids, and that's probably about 300 kids strong, that I recently talked and asked that question. So I have over half the students that are telling me that they have never had a conversation with their parents about digital safety. And that's just been my experience, Josh, is that we still have, potentially half of our teens that are trying to navigate this digital world, and they're doing it with little to no guidance. And to be honest with you, when I talk to some of the parents in the Digital Empowerment for Parent program, I'm pretty point blank about that we have got to love our kids. We've got to dig into their digital world. This is not a one and done topic. This is a continual process between the parent and the child. But that we got to get that statistic down. That's just, like I said, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking. This week, the Momo challenge is hot again. And It's one of those challenges, not to be too topical because people listen to this years later and stuff, but our hope is that some of these challenges will bring up that dialogue. And I think you and I both agree. Scott, is that healthy dialogue. And we have this phrase here at the office: the number one safety app is a dialogue between the parents and the kids. And for all of you listening right now, and I think Scott would agree, you don't have to be everything for your children. You need to have a village that fills in. And, back in the day, people knew they couldn't be everything. So a village and a community would raise that child. Nowadays, it feels like a lot of parents think, I need to be everything. And we were always reminding them, have that cool uncle, the cool aunt, or people in other industries, or trusted adults all around your kid, so your kid can see something. We're about to talk about the dark web, but your kid can see something and say, my mom loves me, but I don't feel comfortable going to her for this. I feel comfortable going to this trusted adult that my mom told me that they have a relationship where that person won't tell my mom, and I can go to them with anything and get advice on puberty, bad stuff online, whatever that is. Surround yourself, your kids, with those groups of people. Okay, Scott, are there any other questions before we jump into the next topic of the dark web and what that is? Are there any questions you ask the students?
Josh, I do want to kind of just talk a little bit about what you just said. I do a pre-event survey before my parents attend a presentation. And one of the many questions is, what do they hope to learn from spending 2 hours with me? And I am still surprised that the prevailing comment of what they want to learn is the technical side of things, is how do I put a filter and how do I monitor my kids' activities? And that is what I speak about least, because I really try to stress to the parents that in order to empower their child, because we can't make the decisions for them. That's why I love the word empowerment, but empowerment is relational and just exactly what you said. And that's what we need to keep stressing. And so many parents are putting such a reliance on letting technology protect their kids, and that's backwards. We need to love them and we need to talk to them. And then all that other techie stuff, that is a secondary kind of reinforcement strategy.
Oh, that's a great tip. And that's so true. So let's talk, are there any other questions students bring up? Let's talk, because you're in the student classroom thing a lot. What are some other maybe nuances you hear from students that might be interesting for parents to hear?
Yeah, some of the recent comment and feedback, and I think the concerns for the students, a lot of conversations about location services. I think maybe that's got some attention in the headlines. They're curious about that. So at least in my presentations, we talk about that, but that seems to be kind of on the forefront of what our kids are thinking about.
Location Now, are the kids asking about location services or parents?
No, they are. The kids are. The parents are surprised when I tell the parents the same thing that I talk about the kids, but the kids are kind of infatuated with the snap maps of the world, for example.
Yeah.
So I think they're aware of that technology, but they're curious as to, is that healthy? Is that safe? Is that putting them at risk? So I like that the kids are asking questions about the functionality of the apps. I think that's good. I think they need to understand that some of those functionality puts them at risk.
So we've got a new video. Scott, we're making 200 videos this year, 200 or 300.
You always have such good videos, Josh.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I get in trouble every once in a while if we get a fact wrong, but we really, really work hard. So I really that's an honor that you would say that. So we've got a video that teaches parents, and please subscribe, rate, review. Go over to our YouTube or smartsocial.com, join our newsletter, because we've got a new video, how to turn off the Snap Map feature. And it shows you step-by-step my face. And boom, 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 boom. It's a 5-screenshot, one slide, how to do that. And it shows you how to do that with your kids. Pretty important. We've also got another one on how to find a fake Instagram account that your students might be managing or monitoring or posting to, a Finstagram. So we've got a bunch of these little things to really open up and dialogue with your kids about. And I agree. Parents are always wondering, how can I outsource my safety to this app? And we're always telling them, look, you can outsource.
Can I give you a story about location services?
Go ahead. Yes, please tell us a story.
I'm sitting in what's called a decoy house, posing as a 12-year-old. And we very typically aren't able to chat per se from the sheriff's office or the police department. And one of the reasons we're not able to do that is because the predators are pushing the teens. And in this case, they pushed me posing as a teen to apps like Snapchat that have the Snap Map enabled. So this particular story is I'm sitting in what we call a decoy house, which is what a realtor allows us to use. They take the for sale sign, and I'm sitting with my team in a house chatting online as a 12-year-old, and we look out the window and there's a car that repeatedly drives up and down the street. So we make the traffic stop, and of course that's the very same predator that is chatting with me posing as a 12-year-old, and I never once told him what community I lived in, let alone what street I lived on. So that's a story that in fact I share with the teens that I talk to, because they need to understand that that technology, you know, as crazy and fun as it is, that puts our kids at risk.
Holy smokes. All right. So let's just back it up here for a sec. Forget about the dark web. Let's talk about this. You, in your role, your job, your career in law enforcement, putting the I'm going to create a trap for bad people to chat. And there's probably a lot of good people out there. They're like, yeah, whatever, cool, nice, neat. And a little bit of bullying, a lot of this. I mean, a bunch of layers you went through. You're saying that the Snap Map feature, which I can show everybody right now how to turn off. We'll do that here, or we'll link to that link below. Subscribe to our YouTube. That Snap Map feature puts somebody on a map. Now, parents, if you're wondering what is the Snap Map feature, Snapchat, which kids call Snap now, is that disappearing video app, as you all know, but nothing really disappears, and they're starting to move into more permanent features, and Instagram copied a lot of those and put them in stories. You've seen Facebook and Instagram stories, but Snapchat was the originator. Now they have a Snap Map, which means you can share your location, and your friends can see where you're on there, and they can click, oh, all these people are here, and they'll also curate all that content and put it on a map at a conference or at a concert, and it makes it interesting. And that's what they're trying to curate content around areas. But your friends, I'm air quoting for all of you listening right now, your friends can follow you and request to get that from you if you accept them, and then they can see where you're at within reason, actually most of the time, as Scott is hinting at, and they can show it to you. I'm going to try and, if you are watching us on video, you're about to see me show Snapchat just real quick. Scott, I hope you don't mind. But if you guys can all see, we're going to flip it around. And if you're not, go subscribe to us on YouTube. But you can see me right there. Scott, do you mind if I show people real quick what this feature is?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So one of the things that I do is, I just scrolled down from the top. I put my finger in the middle. Once again, if you're listening on audio, you open Snapchat. You got to be where your kids are at. Every app that your child is on, parents, if your kid is less than 18 years old or less, you have every right, because you're probably buying that phone, and I'm sorry to preach right now. You're probably buying that phone. You're probably paying for the monthly subscription. You have every right to know the passcode. You have every right to be on every app, following your kids and being able to log in. Scott, am I wrong so far?
No, you're just keep going, Josh. You're doing awesome.
All right. I love you, Scott. Okay, so this is Snap Map. Now, I've already turned it off. I showed people in my video how to turn it off, but I'm going to show you how to turn it back on and then how to turn it off. So all I did was I opened up Snapchat, which I never use. It's exhausting, and I just don't have time for it, but I use it enough to know how the kids are using it. So I clicked on my face in the middle, top third, and I scrolled down, and it turned on Snap Map. It says, welcome. You need to turn on your location. We are going to activate that. Now, it says it wants to use your location. Snapchat uses your location for features like filters, search, Snap Map, advertising, and more. So let's go click allow. Now, that's when my iPhone accesses it. Once I want, now, boom, I'm on the map. You can see me in Long Beach, California. A little hard to see there, but you can see me in Long Beach, California, and you can see some of my friends. Now, this is where it gets a little bit dangerous, and I don't have very many friends on here. I got to be honest. I'm fine with being friendless here. You can see the NBA game. I guess there's going to be an NBA game in downtown LA, and you can click on that, and you can see the game from last night, or there was New Orleans versus Lakers, and this is what they designed this, is content. These people are not here to connect your kids. They're here to create content that gets your kids addicted. Is that your opinion, Josh? It's the opinion of all the people that were the former founders. They leave and then they get caught realizing that what they did to make these things addictive is really, really bad. So this is actually kind of cool. You see firsthand really neat stuff. Now I've got people that are calling me, but you get the idea. Now, how do we turn that off? Scott, do you mind if I teach people real quick?
Absolutely.
And then we're going to get to you. So when you're in SnapMap or Snapchat, there's a little tiny, and it's hard to see, but there is a settings thing in the upper right. You're going to click on the settings gear right up there. And it is going to, and once again, it's a little hard to show you this. I'm going to try and do my best on the advanced options. Those of you that are listening right now, click on that settings gear, and I'm trying to lower that. Perfect. And see, do you see when you're in, do you see ghost mode? Ghost mode is on, so people can't see where I'm at. But oftentimes, ghost mode will be off, and it will show people your location updates. It doesn't seem like you're up to anything in particular. My friends can see me, or you can do my friends accept, or only these friends, or, now here's what's wrong. And I want to talk to you about this, Scott. People are wondering, if it's only my kids' friends, we're fine if they're not in ghost mode. Talk to us about what predators did to get kids to want to be their friend.
Well, let me tell you what I just told a recent middle school, high school that I attended. One of the things that I do in preparation to speaking to any high school is I use one of my 25 online personas, which are teens. And the schools are aware of this. They're more than okay with it. And I send friend requests. Typically, I spend no more than 2 to 3, 4 hours at the max using location services, using Google, finding students that I'm going to speak to at the high school. The very last school that I spoke to, within 2 hours, I had 12 students that accepted one of my fake profiles into their digital world. I just had a school district last month that had 43 students that said yes. Now, the reason I do that is because when I tell the kids that, they're very uncomfortable with that. And I'm more than okay with them being uncomfortable, because the purpose and the premise behind that is I want them to scurry home after class, and I want them to go through every single connection that they have in all of their social media apps, because they've got to hear the message that, depending on which expert you listen to, 25% of those social media contacts may be absolutely fake. Facebook in the last half of 2018 removed 1.3 billion fake profiles. So if you put that combination of our kids are readily accepting people they don't know, and now those people are empowered with location services to know exactly where our kids are at, that is a risk-filled scenario that we have got to address.
Okay, parents, if this isn't real to you yet, think about this. Maybe you're like me. You get a lot of robocalls. Anybody, Scott, do you get any robocalls?
Unfortunately, yes.
I get a lot of robocalls, and they're fake, trying to sell me something. If you get robocalls as an adult, which most of my friends get them, then think about how many fake friends your kids are getting. It's like the robocalls of social media. Now, I have one more thing to say. Remember how I was showing you guys how to turn on ghost mode, which is one of the little videos when you subscribe to us on YouTube. We're going to teach you how to turn on ghost mode. Watch this, Scott. This is one of their newest features, because they want you to think, are you sure? Are you sure you want to turn that on? So I'm going to go turn on ghost mode. Boom. And it says, enable ghost mode. Choose a duration, 3 hours, 24 hours, or until turned off. They're like, do you really want to not share your location? Are you sure? It's kind of like canceling. How about you want to cancel your gym membership? How about we give you 1 month for free, right? That's what they're doing. Kids are probably clicking 3 hours and going, oh, no, well, you're right. I don't want to be left out. I want people to think I'm cool. So you got to click the until turned off, and then you're really in ghost mode, and people can't follow you. All right, super important. Scott, I love you. I think you're amazing what you're doing.
I love you too, Josh. It's all good.
This is actually, it's a bittersweet conversation we're having here. It's not good what we're talking about, but it's good that we're sharing this. And share with me, what's another story? So we've talked about the Snapchat and how many people were casing, as you might call it, if you know criminal activity, to see where it's at. Give us some other stories about what you've learned in the chat rooms.
Well, one of the stories that I share with the middle school and high school kids, it's a story about Kate. She's an 11th grade student that as an investigator I came in contact with. And her story is so telling and important because we just finished talking about or are talking about location services. And what changed Kate's life forever was she gets a message that says, "Hey, how was soccer practice?" So several weeks before she received that message, she had let someone into her social media world. He kind of stalked and waited and watched and eventually figured out that she was using an app that had location services turned on. So once Kate gets that message, she feels very confident and very comfortable that that's somebody that must know her because he knew that she was just coming from soccer practice. And as the story continues, she returned the message, online relationship, nude images, sextortion. It's just a horrific story. But the message that I give to the kids is that started because Kate was using location services and didn't understand the risk that were involved.
Yeah. Wow. That's scary, sad, and I'm glad I get taken back on these things because it means we haven't heard enough of it. So location services are bad. I want to talk about one more thing that a lot of parents haven't heard about that's bad, that I think you're going to hear about it, in my opinion, in the next year or so. It's contact when an app says to use this app, we need to access to your contacts so we can find your friends, and it'll upload all your contacts to their cloud. A lot of people think, well, that's fine, right? I can find my friends. Now, location services are very bad, what we just heard about, but you can turn them off. Once you upload your contacts to the cloud of this app that we do not know, then you can never get them back. And let me tell you what they may do with them. And then I want to hear from you, Scott. But this is something we're seeing that's really, really hot. And Marco Polo did this. Marco Polo wouldn't let you use it until they uploaded it, and they could have been a good app, but we don't know what they're doing with that. Upload all your contacts, and then they would message a bunch of your friends and say, "Hey, Josh just downloaded the Marco Polo app, and he wants you to download it too." Wait, what? I didn't give you the authorization to do that. And a lot of these apps will spam your friends to get them to download it, and that's how they grow. Now, we don't know what they're going to do with that. They could, get hacked, and all your contacts could go somewhere, and your relationships are your most valuable thing. And a lot of people will say, I don't have anything worth stealing or hacking. I don't need to be worried. I'm not a billionaire. And that's exactly what the bad people want you to think. What is often in your mind that keeps you from being safe is exactly what they're preying on. Oh, this person knows I'm at soccer practice. He must know me. He must be a 12-year-old because he's shown every sign of a 12-year-old. And that's where we want you to be really, really careful. Okay, Scott, give us another story.
I had something in mind. You just sparked it and I totally lost it. What were you just talking about?
I was talking a lot about contacts and how they can upload.
Oh, yes. The after school app. Have you done a video on that?
Yes, we have.
Yeah. And one of the things that I stress to the kids is because the majority of apps that they're using are absolutely free. They're not paying $1 for those apps.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to relay and reinforce with the kids that those free apps are never really free. And in kids speak, I help them understand that the app developers, I think, want one of two things. They want their time or they want their information.
True.
So, I try to reinforce that with the kids. And you're right, I get a lot of, well, I don't have any information that's, not important, but there's permanency to that information. There may be a time when that becomes important. So our kids need to understand that they are just living in this free app society, and they can get whatever they want, but there's a price with everything.
Let's talk about those apps. So we're at smartsocial.com, where all I do, I feel like, and my amazing shout out to Elisa on my team, all that we do is create parent app guide videos. I feel like my whole life revolves around what you're about to see. Those of you watching on YouTube, awesome, and Facebook. You can join our newsletter, but this video teaches you how we bucket them into 4 buckets. It used to just be 3, and now it's 4. We have the green zone apps, which are not safe. They're a starting place because the upside can outweigh the downside. The gray zone apps are full of messaging and scary stuff. It can be cool messaging of people you know, and it could be scary messaging that Scott sees. The red zone apps are full of anonymous behavior where predators hang out, bad behavior. The downside drastically outweighs the upside. It's like running with a knife. Do you really need to run? Oh, no, I'm fine, Mom. You don't understand. I'm really safe with it. I don't know about that. Kids don't know what anonymous behavior can tend to do. Depression, anxiety, bullying, and predators, really bad people. Then we hit into the dangerous social media challenges, which really sit on a lot of the apps, and they create an anonymous way for people to communicate with other people. It's really scary. Okay, you were talking about an app. You just mentioned an app. What was that? It was
After School.
After School. If you click on the Red Zone app guide, parents, this is a free resource. After School is an anonymous app that creates a separate chat group for every school. It's been removed twice from the App Store because of threats and arrests. Messages often include bullying, pornography, alcohol, or drug references. If you click on this, it's in our red zone, which means it has a thumb down, and it has a whole video on this, what is the After School app, and it has a bunch of data on the actual app. So a free resource for parents all over the country to learn more about that. Scott, talk to us about some other stories. And sorry to put you on the spot here with these stories, but I know that people are listening to right now, and they may be like me in shock about that Snap Map story. And I have a lot of law enforcement family and friends, but the fact that a realtor and you are working together to create these decoys, first of all, fascinating. Second, thank you for doing this. And third, scary that you've actually have proof that happens. Talk to us about another story you tell kids.
Well, I have to quit chuckling about my brain lapse a few minutes ago. I don't know what that was all about, but I have a story that when I share or talk to the kids about cyber respect and always being kind and positive, I had contact with a teen. Her name was Sarah. Not a lot of relationship with her parents. One of the many students and teens that are trying to navigate this digital world with little to no guidance. She kind of wore her emotions online. She had a tragedy in her family, and rather than turning to people in her real life, she posted feeling sad with a teary-eyed emoticon. And it was followed by posts from her friends. The very first one was an LOL. The next one was ridiculing her about crying. The next one was about being a baby. And as I share with the teens that I talk to, the rest of the story is that Sarah came this close to taking her own life. Were it not for a very kind and a very positive and a very reassuring classmate that said something positive and reached out to her. So I know that our teens are, in this digital world where on a daily basis, there's billions of transactions. That's how we measure the internet now, is by billions. So they're wrapped up in this, speed texting, and we're sure that they're pausing long enough to understand the impact that potentially every post and every like and every image could have. So, I always want to encourage our kids and make sure that our parents understand that needs to be monitored and needs to be a conversation, because the internet, as much as we talk about this skunky, risky stuff, the internet is an amazing place to be positive and be reassuring and to make a difference.
Yeah, that's important. It's important to talk to your kids about empathy.
Yes.
Parents, let me do just 2% of preaching for a sec. Students do not have the vocabulary, parents, that you have about life. When you're having a bad day, talk to somebody. Do this. You have a trusted group, whether you know it or not. You have a group, and I've run for city council before, and I had what I called my closed circle, my network, my people that I trusted, that I loved, that loved me, that would give me wise advice. And you have that regardless of whether you know it or not. You have those friends. Your kids might not, and one of those friends might be going through another thing. They might not text back. There might be a popularity contest. Please, one, be a part of your kids' in that way. You can come to me with anything. I won't judge you. 2, surround your kids with that village. 3, give your kids that vocabulary to know how to deal with stuff like this. That's why even though the Momo challenge might be a fad, it's blowing up right now on our website. We tell people fads can be real things. Fake news can be real things if your kids hear about it and they're having a terrible month. If there's a tragedy in the family, if something bad's happening. And also, parents, you don't need to be up on this just because your kids might go through it. Maybe you have a great family. Your kids' best friends might go through this. And this is something you can watch out and protect your community, because your kids are going to watch that and think that's normal and want to behave that way as well. So it is more important than ever to talk with your kids about this, to prepare them. A lot of parents say, I'll talk with them when I'm ready. Hey, the government's not going to send you a letter in the mail going, warning, this is going to happen. You won't see a dash light on your Honda that says oil light is low, change it in the next 1,000 miles. It happens and it's too late oftentimes. So please have that beforehand. Teach your kids early and often. It's not a one and done. It's not the sex talk and we've had it. No, it's an oftentimes thing because it's constantly changing. Scott, talk to us about the dark web. What is the dark web, and what are the 2 trends that we need to know about, the 2 key phrases?
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about the dark web in my parent programs where typically I don't have the students. And let me give you a real case application. I just did a digital empowerment for parents, which included a ton of educators and counselors. And a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from a counselor that said, Scott, I'm so glad that we attended your presentation, and I'm so glad that you took the time to explain to us what I call the other internet. Let me kind of put it in perspective. There's really 3 flavors of the internet. The first is the surface web. The second is going to be the deep web, and then the dark web. If you go to Google, which is some say the primary search engine for content that's contained in the surface web, and if you type in quotations, naked women, which, Josh, you're the expert in this, you know that greatly reduces your search results. Within 1/2 of a second, you're going to get 30 million websites that are going to hit on naked women. And to put that in perspective, the surface web, which is what Google searches, is about 4% of online content. 90% is what's in the deep web, which is buried, for example, behind your usernames and passwords, i.e. my Gmail, your G Suite, etc. But then there's the third part of the internet, which is the dark web. And most experts say that the data contained in the dark web comprises about 6% of all online content. So if you do the math, that's 2% more than what Google can search. So the counselor that I was referring to was appreciative that she attended, because a high school student, just like I predicted, that we're going to have more and more issues and that we're going to have to move this topic to the forefront within a few short years, because our kids are getting curious and they're getting tech savvy and they're figuring this out. She had a high school student that walked in her counseling, put down a flash drive on her desk and said, I need help. And he had figured out, and it doesn't take much because it's all over YouTube, it's all over the surface web, on how to get to the dark web. And a couple key takeaways that I told the counselor, which she was able to pick up on, is first of all, to access the dark web, you need what's called the Tor browser. So the first takeaway for parents is TOR, and that's typically referred to as what's called the onion network. So if they hear the students talking about Tor, T-O-R, about onion, that's going to be a reference to the dark web. Typically, the Tor browser will be downloaded from the internet. It's a free site, and typically the students are going to put it on a flash drive. So I could go to your computer, I could go to my computer. All I have to do is bring up through my flash drive the Tor browser, and I have this encrypted platform that I now can search, and I can access the dark web. And with that Tor browser, it's going to do what's called node hopping. I'm going to have varied IP addresses. For example, the last time I went using my Tor browser, I started off in the Netherlands, and then I went to England, and then I went to Africa. So my IP addresses are going to assume all of those nodes on the internet. So from an investigator, That makes it virtually impossible, not impossible, but very, very difficult to track that activity. So that technology, that's falling into the hands, especially of our tech savvy high schoolers. So if our parents aren't, most parents aren't even aware, Josh, that this place exists, let alone how to get there. But our kids are beating us there when it comes to having that knowledge. And once you're there, all bets are off. I mean, child pornography is rampant. You can build a bomb, you can hire a hitman, you can get illicit drugs. It's just a scary place, especially to think that our teens may have access to it.
Wow. Okay. So just to break it down for everybody that's listening, the surface web are like blogs, stuff that you can get on Google, whether it's safe search is on or safe search is off, whatever that is, you can usually access it. That's 4% of the web. The deep web is stuff that's in your messaging, right? And behind a password. So a lot of messaging and a lot of it's deep social media, if you will. So there's direct messaging and probably a lot of other stuff. And then the dark web, bigger than the blogosphere, is 6% of the internet. That's crazy. Now, those of you that are listening as well, you've got Google Chrome at home, Safari, you've got Firefox. Tor is another browser. You can download Tor. And don't go there, don't do that. But if you see it, very bad. I have not done this. So when you said, Josh, you're an expert at this, I was like, I have not searched for naked ladies. If you're listening to this right now, laugh with me. But the thing that you use in the Tor URL thing at the top, the Tor thing is, instead of smartsocial.com, it's .onion. So you put something .onion, and the Tor thing will then allow you to go to different places. Am I getting this right, Scott?
Yeah, that was very good, Josh. And typically the .onion addresses will be comprised of a long string of numbers and lowercase letters followed by .onion. But you take good notes. You did a really good job.
Thank you so much. Okay. I'm going to leave you with the last word. I don't like to make these podcasts too long, but I think it's really important what we've talked about. We've hit on location services just on SnapMap. And if you subscribe to us on YouTube or you become a member, just click below, become a member of our newsletter, download our guide, take our free webinar to learn how to turn off SnapMap. You're going to learn about that. So location services, people that are claiming to be 12, 13, 14 online who are not, they can track where your kids are at. We talked a little bit about the dark web. I'm going to leave you with last word. What do you want to tell parents to get them to talk to their kids, or what's just another shocking detail that we might not know if we watch the news?
Well, Josh, my heart tells me that if a parent sat in my seat and was part of the digital world that I was for over a decade, posing as a child, every time guys like you and I have a parent program, it should be parents lined up out the door just begging for seats, because our kids absolutely need us. They need the support, they need the conversation, they need the empowerment, they need the relationship. And what I'm learning is so many parents are overwhelmed, and they have the best of intentions, but they're just lagging behind in this understanding the digital world. So, what you do, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast with you, what you do is invaluable. You have so many resources that parents can tag into. And I just keep encouraging what I call my parents, the parents that attend my programs and are involved in my networks. Parents need to support each other and help each other. And we need to just keep digging into this topic and being there for our kids, and because it's not going anywhere. They're the digital parents of tomorrow. What they learn now and the risk they're taking and embracing the opportunities, because it's not all negative. Certainly in my program, I always end the program with what I call the talking framework, which is invest your time, inspire others, and impact your future. So there's a lot of really cool things, but we got to be there for our kids. We got to love them. We got to talk to them, and we just got to keep working together.
I love it. Hey, Scott, thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Other than my brain lapse, this was a ton of fun. So
no, you're great. Nobody notices anything. You're fantastic. All of you listening right now, please go to smartsocial.com. Just become a part of the newsletter, and let's reach more people. Please do your own research. Go Google the apps, figure stuff out. We've got a huge app guide with about 70 to 80 of the good, medium, and bad apps. They're not good. They're not safe. They're a starting place. The internet is a very positive place, as Scott has said. And in our new social media webinar, which launches March 1st, we will be teaching you all about the most dangerous parts of the web, but also the positive side of the web. And I hope you'll join us for that free webinar. It's trained tens of thousands of people all over the world. And I want to spend about 15 to 30 minutes with you in that webinar showing you how to turn off Snapchat, how to figure out if your kids have Finstagram, all these different things. You jump into that webinar by clicking the link below. March 1st, and later it will be live. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, go register. You can watch the replay. You can listen. You get a free download. It's called How to Navigate the Dangerous Parts of Social Media to Protect Your Student, and How to Get Your Student to Shine Online. A little bit of a long thing. I got a couple words off there, but you get the gut feeling. How do we navigate social media, and how do we get your kid to thrive? Those are the two things. How do you drive the car safely, and how do you get to the destination? Because we actually have to use these devices with a purpose. It's important. And once you have a point B that you need to get to, you're going to know how to drive that car and get to that purpose. We have a phrase at our company: if you just give kids this Ferrari, and I'm holding up my iPhone, if you give them a Ferrari and you go, here, have fun with your friends, this will be their pastime. And if a device is used as a pastime, it can be dangerous. But if all of a sudden you give them this vehicle that is their cell phone, and you have a purpose with it, how to build a resume, how to connect and communicate and do all these things we talk about in our webinar, you are then going to be able to have a purpose instead of a pastime. Your kids will, and I promise you, they'll behave a little bit better online when you're not around if they have a purpose and they know what the intent of the internet is for their future. I hope you'll take us up and go log into that free webinar. Educators, you're welcome to share it. All of our resources are free for the whole world to share. Outside of our membership site, everything that is in the surface web on our site is 100% yours. One last shout out. Scott, thank you so much for joining us live here today. I really appreciate your time.
Josh, I appreciate your friendship. Thanks for including me in your podcast, and keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Thank you, sir. I'll see you guys all very soon. As always, keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching. We'll see you on the next episode.